Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. Sarah had always believed that some moments in life arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary encounters, only to reveal themselves later as the turning points that change everything. She would think of this often in the months that followed, wondering if she had somehow sensed the significance of that autumn afternoon, when everything began with something as simple as a towel. The rain had been falling steadily for 3 days. The kind of persistent downpour that turns suburban streets into rivers and makes even the shortest walk feel like an adventure. Sarah stood at her kitchen window, watching the water cascade down the glass, distorting the view of the quiet neighborhood she had called home for the past 2 years. At 34, she had grown comfortable with the predictable rhythm of her life work at the marketing firm. Evening walks when weather permitted, weekend trips to the farmer's market, and the occasional coffee with her friend Emma who lived across town. But comfort, she was beginning to realize, was not the same as contentment. The doorbell rang, cutting through the steady percussion of rain against the roof. Sarah glanced at the clock. 4:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw a figure hunched against the rain, dark hair plastered to his forehead, shoulders trembling slightly from the cold. When she opened the door, her heart did something unexpected. It skipped, just once, but enough to make her breath catch. "I'm so sorry to bother you," the young man said, his voice carrying a slight tremor that might have been from the cold or perhaps nervousness. "I'm Alex, from next door, Mrs. Chen's son." Sarah knew Mrs. Chen well, a widow in her 60s who tended the most beautiful garden on the block and always waved cheerfully when they passed each other. She had mentioned her son before, the one who had recently moved back from college to help her with the house, but Sarah had never actually met him. "Of course," Sarah said, stepping aside instinctively. "Come in, you're soaked." Alex hesitated at the threshold, water dripping from his jacket onto her doormat. "I hate to impose, but our power's been out since this morning, and the hot water heater isn't working. I was hoping... Would it be possible to borrow a towel? I have a job interview tomorrow morning, and I really need to shower." There was something in his voice of vulnerability that made Sarah's chest tighten with an emotion she couldn't quite name. She found herself studying his face more carefully than she should have, noting the way his dark eyes seemed to hold depths of unspoken stories, the gentle curve of his mouth, the way he held himself with a mixture of confidence and uncertainty that reminded her of someone standing at the edge of a diving board. "Of course," she heard herself saying. "But why don't you just shower here? I mean, if you're comfortable with that. I have plenty of hot water. And you look like you could use some warming up." The offer surprised them both. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. She wasn't typically the type to invite strangers into her home, especially not young men she'd never met. But something about Alex felt different, familiar in a way that defied logic. Alex's expression shifted, gratitude mixing with something else, relief, perhaps, or maybe the same inexplicable recognition that Sarah was feeling. "Are you sure? I don't want to put you out." "It's no trouble at all," Sarah said, and meant it. "The guest bathroom is upstairs, second door on the right. I'll get you some towels." As Alex followed her up the narrow staircase, Sarah became acutely aware of his presence behind her, the soft sound of his footsteps, the faint scent of rain, and something else. Something warm and masculine that made her feel suddenly self-conscious about the old sweater she was wearing, the way her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She gathered towels from the linen closet, choosing the softest ones she had, plush and cream-colored, the kind she usually reserved for special occasions. As she handed them to Alex, Their fingers brushed, and Sarah felt that same electric skip in her chest, more pronounced this time. "Thank you," Alex said, his voice softer, now almost intimate in the quiet hallway. "Really, I can't tell you how much this means to me." Sarah found herself looking into his eyes, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. There was something there, a connection that felt both new and ancient, like recognition of a soul she had somehow been waiting to meet. Take all the time you need, she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper dot as Alex disappeared into the bathroom. Sarah stood in the hallway for a long moment, her hands still tingling from where their skin had touched. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling the rapid rhythm of her heart, and wondered what was happening to her. The sound of running water filled the silence, and Sarah realized she was being ridiculous. This was simply a neighborly gesture, nothing more. Alex was Mrs. Chun's son, probably in his early 20s, just back from college. She was being a good neighbor, that was all. But as she made her way back downstairs, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in her quiet, ordered world. She busied herself in the kitchen, making tea and trying not to think about the young man showering in her bathroom. The rain continued its relentless rhythm against the windows, creating a cocoon of intimacy around her small house. Sarah found herself moving restlessly from counter to counter, straightening things that didn't need straightening, her mind replaying the moment when Alex had looked at her with those dark, expressive eyes. 20 minutes later, she heard the bathroom door open, followed by footsteps on the stairs. Alex appeared in the kitchen doorway, his hair still damp, but no longer dripping, his cheeks flushed from the hot water. He had changed into dry clothes, a simple grey sweater and jeans that somehow made him look both younger and more mature at the same time. "I can't thank you enough," he said, holding the wet towel carefully. "I feel human again." Sarah smiled, gesturing to the kettle on the stove. "I made tea, if you'd like some. It's still pretty nasty out there." Alex glanced toward the window, where the rain was still coming down in sheets. "I'd love some, if you're sure I'm not keeping you from anything." "Just correcting marketing proposals," Sarah said, surprised by how easily the conversation flowed. "Trust me, you're saving me from a very boring evening." As they sat at her small kitchen table, steam rising from their mugs, Sarah found herself studying Alex more carefully. He was older than she had first thought, probably mid-20s rather than early 20s. There was something in his manner, a thoughtfulness that suggested depth beyond his years. "So you're back from college?" she asked, cradling her mug in both hands. Alex nodded, his expression growing slightly more serious. "Just finished my master's in architecture. I'm supposed to start at a firm downtown next month, but I wanted to spend some time with my mum first. She's been alone since my dad passed 2 years ago." Sarah felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry about your father." "Thank you," Alex said simply. "It's been an adjustment for both of us. Mum's stronger than she looks, but I worry about her." The genuine concern in his voice touched something in Sarah's chest. She found herself wanting to know more about this young man who had appeared at her door like some character from a story she might have read long ago. "That's sweet of you to come back to help her," Sarah said. "Not many people your age would make that choice." Alex looked at her over his mug, his dark eyes serious. "Some things are more important than career timelines, don't you think? Family, connection, being there for the people who matter." There was something in the way he said it that made Sarah feel like he was talking about more than just his relationship with his mother. She found herself nodding, thinking about her own life, her own choices, the careful distance she had maintained from anything that might disrupt her carefully constructed peace. "You're right," she said softly. "I think I sometimes forget that." The conversation continued as the afternoon faded into evening, flowing from topic to topic with an ease that surprised them both. Alex talked about his studies, his love of designing spaces that brought people together, his dreams of creating buildings that felt like homes rather than just structures. Sarah found herself sharing more than she had intended: her work, her move to this neighborhood after her divorce, her growing sense that she was living her life on the sidelines, watching rather than participating. "I used to paint," she heard herself saying, the words coming from somewhere deep inside her that she had almost forgotten existed. "I haven't picked up a brush in years." "Why?" Alex asked, his voice gentle but curious. Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think I convinced myself it wasn't practical, that I needed to focus on more important things." "What could be more important than creating something beautiful?" Alex asked, and there was something in his tone that made Sarah look up, meeting his eyes across the small table. For a moment, the kitchen felt charged with possibility, as if the rain outside had washed away the barriers between them, leaving only this: two people discovering something unexpected in each other's company. Spell was broken by the sound of Alex's phone buzzing against the table. He glanced at it, and Sarah saw his expression shift slightly. "That's my mom," he said. "She'd be wondering where I am." Reality settled back around them like a familiar coat. Sarah nodded, suddenly aware of how long they had been sitting together, how the natural light had given way to the soft glow of her kitchen lamps. "Of course," she said, standing to collect their empty mugs. "I should let you get back." Alex stood as well, but he didn't move toward the door immediately. Instead, he stood there in her kitchen, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Sarah," he said, and her name on his lips sounded different somehow, weighted with meaning. "I know this might sound strange, but would you maybe like to have dinner sometime? I mean, I'd love to cook for you, as a thank you for today." Sarah's heart did that skipping thing again, more pronounced this time. She found herself looking into his eyes, seeing something there that made her breath catch hope, maybe, or the same inexplicable connection she had been feeling all afternoon. "I'd like that," she said, the words coming before she could second-guess herself. "I'd like that very much." The smile that spread across Alex's face was like sunrise after a long night. "Really?" "Really," Sarah confirmed, surprising herself, with the certainty in her voice as Alex gathered his things and prepared to leave. Sarah felt something shifting inside her, like a door opening onto a room she had forgotten existed. She watched him pull on his jacket, still damp from the afternoon rain, and felt an unexpected reluctance to see him go. "Thank you again," Alex said, pausing at the door. "For everything. I'll call you about dinner?" "I'd like that," Sarah repeated, and meant it more than she had meant anything in a long time. After Alex left, Sarah stood in her doorway, watching him sprint through the rain to his mother's house next door. She could see lights on in the windows now. The power had apparently been restored. But something in her own house felt different, as if the afternoon had left an imprint on the familiar spaces. She spent the evening in a state of quiet anticipation, moving through her normal routines while her mind kept returning to the conversation. In her kitchen, the way Alex had looked at her, the unexpected ease with which they had connected. She found herself thinking about the things he had said about family, about connection, about the importance of creating something beautiful. That night, for the first time in months, Sarah lay in bed unable to sleep, but it wasn't anxiety that kept her awake. It was something else entirely, a sense of possibility, of something beginning rather than ending. The next morning, Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom windows. The rain had finally stopped, and the world outside looked washed clean, everything sharper and more vivid than it had been in days. She found herself humming as she made coffee, her mind already wondering when Alex might call about dinner. The call came that evening, just as Sarah was finishing her work for the day. The sound of his voice sent that familiar flutter through her chest, and she found herself smiling before she even said hello. "I was thinking," Alex said, his voice warm even through the phone. "There's this little Italian place downtown that I've been wanting to try. But then I remembered I promised to cook for you." "You did," Sarah said, settling into her favorite chair by the window. "I'm holding you to that." "How about tomorrow night?" Alex asked. "I make a mean pasta sauce and I promise not to burn down your kitchen." Sarah laughed, the sound surprising her with its lightness. "My kitchen it is. Should I be worried about the fire safety in my house?" "Only if you're particularly attached to your smoke detectors," Alex said, and Sarah could hear the smile in his voice. They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing with the same easy intimacy they had discovered the day before. Sarah found herself curled up in her chair, watching the last light fade from the sky, feeling more content than she had in months. The next evening, Sarah found herself doing something she hadn't done in years. She changed clothes 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that brought out her eyes. She told herself it was just dinner, just a neighborly thank you, but her reflection in the mirror suggested otherwise. Alex arrived promptly at 7, carrying a bag of groceries and a bottle of wine. He had changed too, Sarah noticed, trading his casual clothes for dark jeans and a button-down shirt that made his dark eyes seem even deeper. "I hope you're hungry," he said, following her into the kitchen. "I may have gotten a little carried away at the market." As Alex unpacked his groceries, Sarah found herself watching his hands, the careful way he handled the fresh herbs, the confidence with which he moved around her kitchen. There was something deeply appealing about a man who knew his way around food, who took pleasure in the process of creating something nourishing. "What can I do to help?" Sarah asked, genuinely wanting to be part of whatever he was creating. "Just keep me company," Alex said, looking up from where he was examining her collection of pots and pans. "And maybe tell me more about this painting you used to do." Sarah felt a familiar tightness in her chest at the mention of her abandoned art. "There's not much to tell. I painted landscapes mostly, a few portraits. Nothing very good." Alex paused in his preparations, giving her a look that was both gentle and skeptical. "I doubt that." "What made you stop?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain the gradual way she had let go of the things that had once felt essential to her identity. "Life, I suppose. Work got busier. The divorce happened. And somewhere along the way, it started to feel like something I used to do rather than something I was." "Do you miss it?" Alex asked. His voice soft. Sarah considered the question, surprised by the immediate answer that rose in her throat. "Yes, more than I realized." As Alex worked, his hands sure and efficient as he prepared the sauce, Sarah found herself talking about things she hadn't spoken of in years. The way painting had made her feel connected to something larger than herself. The satisfaction of mixing colors until they were exactly right. The meditative quality of losing herself in the work. "You should start again," Alex said, tasting the sauce and adding a pinch of salt. "Life's too short to abandon the things that make us feel alive." There was something in his tone that made Sarah look at him more closely. "Is that what you're doing? With architecture?" Alex nodded, his expression growing thoughtful. "I spent 4 years studying how to design buildings that serve their purpose efficiently. But lately I've been thinking more about how to design spaces that serve the soul. Places where people can connect, where they can be themselves, where they can create something beautiful." As he spoke, Sarah felt something stirring in her chest, recognition, maybe, or the memory of what it felt like to care deeply about something creative. She found herself thinking about the canvases stored in her closet, the brushes she hadn't touched in 2 years, the part of herself she had gradually let fade. The dinner was extraordinary, not just the food, though Alex's pasta was every bit as good as he had promised, but the conversation that flowed between them. They talked about everything and nothing, discovering shared interests and gentle disagreements, building the kind of connection that usually takes months to develop. As they lingered over wine and dessert, Sarah found herself studying Alex's face in the candlelight, noticing the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he laughed, the unconscious grace with which he moved his hands when he talked about something he was passionate about. "Can I ask you something?" Alex said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. Sarah nodded, though she felt a flutter of nervousness at the change in his demeanor. "Yesterday, when you opened your door, I felt like I knew you. Like I'd been waiting to meet you without realizing it." He paused, his dark eyes searching her face. "Did you feel anything like that?" Sarah's breath caught. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and risk. She could deflect, make light of it, keep things safe and simple. Or she could tell the truth. "Yes," she said quietly. "I felt exactly like that." The admission seemed to change something in the room, making the air feel charged with possibility. Alex reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers where they rested beside her wine glass. "I know this might be complicated," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The age difference, the fact that we're neighbors, that I'm just starting my career while you're established in yours." Sarah felt her heart hammering against her ribs. "How old are you?" she asked, though she was afraid of the answer. 26, Alex said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know that probably seems young to you." Sarah did the math quickly. 8 years. It wasn't insignificant, but it wasn't scandalous either. More importantly, the conversation they had been having for the past 2 days had felt like a meeting of equals. 2 adults who had found something unexpected in each other. "It's not the years," Sarah said slowly. "It's the different places we're at in our lives. Unsettled, maybe too settled. You're just beginning." Alex's hand covered hers completely now, his thumb tracing small circles on her knuckles. "Maybe that's exactly what we both need. You could help me figure out how to build a life worth living. And maybe I could help you remember what it feels like to take risks, to create something beautiful again." The words hung between them, full of promise and uncertainty. Sarah found herself looking into Alex's eyes, seeing something there that made her chest tighten with an emotion she had almost forgotten. Hope. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "I've been careful for so long. I'm not sure I remember how to be any other way." "We don't have to figure it all out tonight," Alex said gently. "We could just see what happens, take it one day at a time." Sarah felt something inside her loosening, like a fist that had been clenched for years finally opening. "I'd like that," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I'd like to see what happens." The smile that spread across Alex's face was like dawn breaking over a landscape she had forgotten existed. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles, and Sarah felt something fundamental shift in her understanding of what her life could be. They talked until well past midnight, the conversation ranging from dreams and fears to favorite books and childhood memories. Sarah found herself laughing more than she had in months, but also sharing things she had never told anyone. The loneliness of her marriage, the gradual way she had learned to protect herself by wanting less, the growing sense that she was living her life at half-volume. When Alex finally left, he paused at the door, his hand on the frame, looking back at her with an expression that made her heart skip. "Sarah," he said softly, "thank you for tonight. for taking a chance on whatever this is. Thank you for asking me to, Sarah replied, meaning it more than she had meant anything in a long time. After he left, Sarah stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching the quiet street, feeling the cool night air on her skin. She felt different, lighter somehow, as if she had been carrying a weight she hadn't realized was there. That night, she lay in bed thinking about Alex's words, about taking risks and creating something beautiful. On impulse, she got up and went to her closet, pushing aside old coats and boxes until she found what she was looking for: a canvas bag filled with brushes, tubes of paint, and a small palette knife. She carried the bag downstairs to her kitchen table, unpacking the supplies, with hands that trembled slightly. The brushes felt foreign in her fingers, but also familiar, like tools she had been meant to hold. Sarah didn't paint that night. It was too late, and she was too emotional to trust herself with color and form. But she arranged the brushes on the table, opened a few tubes of paint to see if they were still good, and allowed herself to imagine what it might feel like to create something again. The next few days passed in a blur of text messages and phone calls, small gestures that felt momentous. Alex would send her pictures of architectural details he found beautiful: the way light fell through a window, the curve of a staircase, the pattern of shadows on a wall. Sarah found herself seeing her own neighborhood differently, noticing things she had walked past for 2 years without really seeing. On Saturday morning, Alex appeared at her door with coffee and pastries from the bakery downtown. "I thought you might like breakfast," he said, his smile shy but hopeful. "And I wanted to see if you'd like to come with me to the art museum. There's a new exhibition on contemporary landscape painting." Sarah felt her heart do that familiar skip. "You don't have to entertain me," she said, though she was already reaching for her jacket. "I want to," Alex said simply. "I want to spend time with you." The museum was crowded with weekend visitors, but Sarah found herself absorbed in the paintings, seeing them with eyes that felt newly awakened. Alex walked beside her, occasionally asking questions about technique or color theory, and Sarah realized she had forgotten how much she enjoyed talking about art with someone who was genuinely interested. "This one reminds me of the view from my mom's backyard," Alex said, pausing in front of a painting of rolling hills bathed in golden light. "She has this little garden that overlooks the valley. It's the most peaceful place I know." Sarah studied the painting, noting the way the artist had captured the quality of late afternoon light, the subtle gradations of color that suggested depth and distance. "It's beautiful," she said. "I can see why it reminds you of home." "I'd like to show it to you sometime," Alex said, his voice soft. "The garden, I mean, if you'd like to see it." Sarah looked at him, seeing something in his expression that made her chest tighten with affection. "I'd love that." As they walked through the museum, Sarah found herself thinking about the conversation they had shared over dinner, about taking risks and creating something beautiful. She watched Alex study a particularly abstract piece, his brow furrowed in concentration, and felt a surge of tenderness that surprised her with its intensity. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked, catching her staring. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Just this. Being here with you. I can't remember the last time I spent a Saturday doing something just because I wanted to." Alex stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "What do you usually do on Saturdays?" "Errands," Sarah said, laughing at how mundane it sounded. "Grocery shopping, laundry, cleaning the house. Very exciting stuff." "And what do you want to do?" Alex asked, his dark eyes serious. Sarah considered the question, surprised by the immediate answer that came to her. "I want to paint," she said, the words coming from somewhere deep inside her that she had almost forgotten existed. "I want to go home and paint." Alex's face lit up with the most beautiful smile Sarah had ever seen. "Then let's go home," he said. "Let's go paint." They stopped at an art supply store on the way back, Alex insisting on buying her a set of new brushes and a palette knife to replace the ones that had grown stiff with age. Sarah protested that it was too much, but Alex was adamant. "Consider it an investment," he said, handing his credit card to the cashier. "I have a feeling you're going to create something amazing." Back at Sarah's house, they cleared the kitchen table and spread newspapers across the surface. Sarah set up her easel by the window, positioning it to catch the afternoon light. Her hands shook slightly as she squeezed paint onto her palette, mixing colors with the new knife Alex had bought. What are you going to paint?" Alex asked, settling into a chair where he could watch without getting in her way. Sarah looked out the window at the view she had seen every day for 2 years, but had never really considered as a subject for art. The late afternoon light was painting the neighbor's fence in shades of gold and amber, and the tree in her backyard was beginning to show the first hints of autumn color. "I think I'll paint what I see," Sarah said, dipping her brush in the paint. Sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones right in front of us. As Sarah began to paint, she felt something she had forgotten existed, the deep satisfaction of creating something with her hands, the meditative quality of mixing colors until they were exactly right. The way the world seemed to fade away until there was nothing but the canvas and the image emerging on its surface. Alex watched in silence, occasionally getting up to make tea or adjust the light, but mostly just sitting quietly while Sarah worked. There was something deeply intimate about painting while he watched, about allowing him to see her in this vulnerable, creative state. "You're beautiful when you paint," Alex said softly, after she had been working for nearly an hour. Sarah looked up, her brush poised above the canvas, and saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "Alex," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He stood up from his chair, moving to stand beside her easel. "I know we said we'd take this slow," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But I need you to know something." Sarah set down her brush, turning to face him fully. "What?" "I'm falling for you," Alex said, his dark eyes never leaving hers. "I've never felt anything like this before, and I know it's probably too soon to say it, but I can't pretend it's not happening." Sarah felt her heart hammering against her ribs. The words hung in the air between them, beautiful and terrifying and full of possibility. "I'm scared," Sarah admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm scared of how much I feel for you, how quickly it's happening. I'm scared of what people will think, what it means for both of our lives." Alex reached out, his hands cupping her face gently. "I'm scared too," he said. "But I'm more scared of not taking this chance, of letting fear keep us from something that could be extraordinary." For a moment they stood there in the afternoon light, looking into each other's eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. Then Alex leaned down, and Sarah rose up on her toes to meet him, and their lips touched in a kiss that felt like coming home and embarking on a journey at the same time. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid of breaking something precious. But as Sarah's arms wound around Alex's neck and his hands settled on her waist, it deepened into something more urgent, more real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sarah felt as if the world had shifted on its axis. She looked into Alex's eyes and saw her own wonder reflected there, the same sense of having found something she hadn't known she was looking for. "What happens now?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex smiled, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheek. "Now we figure it out together," he said. "One day at a time, one moment at a time." Sarah looked at her finished painting, at the late afternoon light streaming through her window, at the young man who had appeared in her life like a gift she hadn't known she needed. She thought about the careful, ordered life she had built, the walls she had constructed around her heart, the way she had learned to protect herself by wanting less. "I want to try," she said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "I want to see what we could be together." Alex's smile was like sunrise after the longest night. "I want that too," he said. "More than I've ever wanted anything." As the sun set outside her window, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Sarah felt something she had almost forgotten existed. The deep satisfaction of being exactly where she was supposed to be, with exactly the person she was supposed to be with. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Sarah found herself rediscovering parts of herself she had forgotten, encouraged by Alex's unwavering belief in her talent and his gentle insistence that she deserved to pursue the things that made her happy. She painted every evening after work. Her small kitchen transformed into a studio filled with canvases and the smell of turpentine and oil paint. Alex would often join her, sometimes working on his own projects at the kitchen table, sometimes just sitting quietly while she worked, the comfortable silence between them speaking of a connection that went deeper than words. "I have something to tell you," Alex said one evening, looking up from the architectural drawings he had been sketching. "I got the job." Sarah set down her brush, turning to face him fully. "The firm downtown?" Alex nodded, his expression a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "I start next Monday." "It's exactly what I wanted." They focus on residential design, creating spaces that feel like home rather than just buildings. Sarah felt a surge of pride and affection. "That's wonderful," she said, meaning it completely. "I'm so proud of you." "There's something else," Alex said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "They want me to take the lead on a project designing a community center. It's a big opportunity, but it also means I'll be working longer hours, at least for the first few months." Sarah felt a flutter of anxiety. "How much longer?" "Probably 60 hours a week, maybe more," Alex said. "I wanted to talk to you about it because I don't want this to change what we have. I don't want you to think I'm choosing work over you." Sarah set down her palette, considering his words. The old Sarah, the one who had learned to protect herself by expecting less, might have seen this as a sign to pull back to prepare for the inevitable disappointment. That the woman she was becoming, the one who had learned to paint again and take risks and open her heart, had a different response. "I think you should take it," she said, surprising them both. "It sounds like an amazing opportunity." Alex's face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Really? You're not worried about the hours?" "I'm worried," Sarah admitted, "but I'm also excited for you. This is what you've been working toward, and I want you to have everything you've dreamed of." That night, as they lay together in Sarah's bed, Alex's arm around her waist and her head on his chest, Sarah felt a contentment she had never experienced before. It wasn't the careful, controlled peace she had built her life around, but something deeper and more real, the satisfaction of being truly known and accepted, the joy of loving someone and being loved in return. "Sarah," Alex said softly, his voice rumbling in his chest, "I love you." The words hung in the darkness between them, simple and perfect and full of promise. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming gratitude of having found something she had almost given up believing in. "I love you too," she whispered, the words coming from the deepest part of her heart. The months that followed were not without challenges. Alex's new job was demanding, and there were weeks when they saw each other only in passing, brief kisses goodbye in the morning and exhausted hellos late at night. Sarah found herself struggling with moments of doubt, wondering if she was foolish to build her happiness around someone so much younger, someone whose life was just beginning while hers felt more settled. That always, Alex would surprise her. A text message in the middle of a difficult day. A bouquet of flowers appearing on her doorstep. A Saturday morning when he would show up with coffee and pastries and no plans except to spend time together. "I have something to show you," Alex said one evening in late November, appearing at her door with a rolled-up set of papers under his arm. Sarah let him in, noting the excitement in his eyes. "What is it?" Alex spread the papers across her kitchen table, revealing detailed architectural drawings of a building Sarah didn't recognize. "It's the community center," he said. "The one I've been working on." Sarah studied the drawings, seeing the careful thought that had gone into every detail. The building was beautiful, modern but warm, with lots of natural light and open spaces. That seemed designed to bring people together. "It's incredible," Sarah said, meaning it completely. "You designed this?" Alex nodded, his cheeks flushed with pride. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a particular section of the drawing. "This is going to be an art studio. A place where people can come to paint, to create, to connect with other artists." Sarah looked more closely, seeing the careful way he had designed the space to maximize natural light. The storage solutions for supplies, the comfortable seating, area where people could gather to share their work. "Alex," she said softly, understanding dawning on her. "You designed this thinking about me." "I designed it thinking about you, and about Mrs. Patterson down the street who used to teach piano, but doesn't have anywhere to give lessons anymore, and about the teenager next door who's always drawing, but doesn't have anyone to talk to about art," Alex said, his voice growing more passionate as he spoke. "I designed it thinking about all the people who have something beautiful to offer the world, but don't have a place to share it.